Thelma. Okay. Hey, I see people in my meeting. All right. How's everyone doing?
Hey, Mr. Smith.
Hello, Mr. Smith.
Hey, I see people. Good to see everyone. Thanks for muting yourselves so that we don't have the feedback, but please feel free to unmute. We can chat a little bit. I am using the district's Zoom meeting license today, so it's my first time using that. And I'm going to have to figure it out as I go. So hopefully this will go well. And if it doesn't, I hope you guys will forgive me and at least give me points for trying. Kimberly, I see you're on here. And Sarah Heath and Abdur. Oh, look at all these wonderful people on here.
Yo.
Hey, how's it going? I see Taylor and Chantel, Angelina. Good to see you. I see Ms. Williams is on here. Estevan, Mariana. You guys doing well? Somebody say hello.
Hello.
Oh my goodness, I see Angelina has found the chat function. Let's see if I can chat in there. Okay, well, it's 2:50. We're going to give everybody a chance to
Mr. Smith.
remember to go ahead and mute yourself so that we don't get that biofeedback loop. All right. Estevan, can you hear okay? I see that you have a question about the audio. You're going to need to unmute yourself in order to speak. You should be able to hear us. Ms. Farmer, you can hear okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Sarah, I'm sorry about the face mask issue. Me too. As you can see, I'm out of face masks. Hey, I see there's a little reaction button on the right-hand side of my screen where I can give a thumbs up or applause. That's cool. Do you guys have that same function? The little thumbs up? Do you have that, Sarah? All right, look at that. We are in business. The district's license allows 500 people into our Zoom meeting, and Mr. Mayo is allowing me to be him today. So they have a few more bells and whistles than we do on the basic license. I get to applaud you guys. Let's see here. Thank you, Angelina. Hey, I see Nadia's in the house. Hey, Nadia. And there's Beasia.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was wondering if you were going to make a song for Turtle Idol this year like you did last year.
I don't know about this year.
Oh, Beasia, I was counting on you, girl.
I'm sorry.
I was thinking about singing for Turtle Idol this year, and I have no rhythm and no song, so I was hoping maybe you could pull something off for us.
Right. I'll see what I can.
You'll think about it, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Good deal.
Cool.
Hey, Jaden's in the house. Hey, Jaden, how you doing?
Even though we're there.
Oh, I can do. You should. I mean, we can still look like this.
Yep, I see the Lawrences. good deal. There's Miss Trinidad's in the house. So you guys probably noticed that on the screen, I'm coming up as Matthew Mayo, and please allow me to dispel that I am not Matthew Mayo. Mr. Mayo is our director of technology in the district, and he allowed me to use his license so that we could get more people into the room. At our last Turtle or town meeting, we only had room for 100. We thought we had room for 200, but we ended up filling the room up, and some folks got blocked out. So Mr. Mayo allowed me to log in as him, and I'm using the district's login. So that's why under my name, you may see Matthew Mayo. Got the Matthew right, but not the Mayo. Hey, so I know we haven't started our meeting yet, but let me introduce you guys to someone who's here at school with me. Come on around. This is my youngest daughter, Sophie. She's 9, and she came into work today with me so that she could keep me company. So she's going to be out in the hallway during our meeting, but I thought I would just let her say hello to you. So you'll say,
Hi.
all right. Did you need something?
Can I go back there so I can watch a video?
Yeah.
Like there's feedback.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, Sophie, Ms. Rogers said hello. She entered Hey, Sophie in the chat bar. You know, she's our bearded dragon expert.
Hello.
So a lot more people joining now. I see Elena Harris coming into the room. Ms. Rogers is on board. I see a couple folks listed as iPhone and some other names I don't recognize. I see Ms. Williams is on here, Taylor and Abigail's mom. It's nice to see you, Ms. Williams. There's the Sano family. It's nice to see you, Mr. Sano. How are you doing? Good to see you. Fellow educators in the house with us. Mr. Sano is an educator in, I believe it's Wilson County. And so glad to have him in the room with us today. And I do see Chantel is in the room, but she's been real quiet, hasn't said anything yet. There we go. Estevan, did we get the audio issue worked out? Sally B. Howard, got her, Mr. Sano. Thank you much. Very good. All right. Hey guys, Miss Manley is in the house. Buenos dias, Miss Manley, señorita. Está aquí.
Hey, Mr. Smith.
Hey, she's here. Hey, Chantel. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You're doing great. You're doing well, girl. And
I'm doing well. Yes.
I'm sorry, even in remote learning, you're still doing well. I miss you. I haven't heard from you in a month. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, I am.
Good. This is where you say, Mr. Smith, I miss you too. And I don't know how to fill this emptiness within me.
I miss you too, Mr. Smith.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You just tell me what I want to hear, right?
No.
All right. I think Autumn's in the house with us. Good to see you, Autumn. I think Elise Webb has joined us. Hey, Ms. Webb, how you doing? Hope you and Josh are doing well.
Hey, Mr. Smith, how are you? We're good.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, doing well. Thank you. Staying super busy. It's this really weird, um, this school closure period of time. It seems like we've had to speed up and slow down all at one time. So really weird time. Hey, Miss Penix, hope you're doing well. And I see the Duff family's joining us. It's nice to see you guys with the Duffs, Bryson and Matthew and Mr. and Mrs. Duff. Thanks for joining the call. Guys, we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. Hey, Ms. White is in the house. Brittany White. And there's Susan Hoke. Goodness gracious, guys, we're in the presence of a VIP. Susan Hoke is in the house. Oh my goodness. Penny Hines is here with us, everybody. Ms. Hines. And I bet Elise is on the phone too. Hey, Elise. Hey, Ms. Hines.
Hi.
Oh, look, they're going to say hello. How nice.
Please tell me to be quiet.
She
Out
did.
of the way.
Just ignore her, Ms. Hines.
Of course.
You're in your house and she's in your house. You can say whatever you want to say.
Absolutely. Click it back.
Miss Hayes is waiting for her shout out.
Oh, good gracious. Miss Hayes is joining us.
This long too.
Wow.
Hayes.
Wow, you guys have snuck in on us.
It does.
Oh, man. We've got Marcus McKinney is in the house. Good gracious.
Hi.
Hey, Marcus. Marcus, you got a
Chicken
shout out.
nugget. Hey, Mrs. Smith.
Hey, who is that?
Dynasty.
Oh, hey, Dynasty. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm so glad. I enjoyed texting you the other night. It's been too long. All right. So look, guys, as people start joining, we're getting 50, 60, 70 folks in the room. If you'll mute your phone so that we don't get the biofeedback. It's actually not biofeedback, it's feedback. My sound coming through your speakers goes back through your microphone, and so it creates a little bit of a reverb. So as we're meeting today and chatting, if you need to speak, feel free to. You are welcome even to interrupt me, but just unmute yourself to speak and then say what you need to say. And then if you'll mute back, we can go back and forth and we can chat without that feedback loop, that sound coming through. So I appreciate everybody being muted right now, but as we get going here, if you need to speak, just feel free to jump in. I'll pause from time to time and take questions, and we'll get going. Looks like we've got about 50 people in the room now. About half of our instructional team is here today. So I appreciate them joining, and we'll go ahead and get rolling. So I wanted to just take a few minutes and reach out to everybody. This has been such an interesting 5 weeks or so since the governor closed schools on March 14th. We left school on March 13th thinking that we were going to be back in school on Monday. And instead, that Saturday, the governor made the announcement, and I think rightly so, that we were going to move into a school closure situation for a couple weeks. And then later on, he went ahead and extended that school closure all the way through May 15th. And as you guys now know, based on his executive order on Friday, he has extended school closure for the rest of the school year. And I'm not a public health expert, but I will say that I've been following Governor Cooper and Mandy Cohen from the Department of Health and Human Services very closely during this process. And I know that they're really making their decisions about what's best in the interest of the public health based on science and based on data. And I think that's got to be the best way to approach this issue. I think closing schools is tough. I think most of you guys may know, Governor Cooper, he's from Nash County, right next door to us, and his mom was a teacher. And I've met him several times, spoken with him, and he is a real advocate for education. He knows the importance of school. He knows there's no replacement for the face-to-face contact with teachers and students in a school building. And I know his heart is heavy that he has had to close schools. What I've been so proud of is that our school family has been so intentional about building relationships during the year and keeping the lines of communication open that we've really been able to pivot pretty quickly from our traditional school that was taking place on Friday, May 13th, to the remote learning that we've been doing starting on that Tuesday, the following Tuesday after that. So you guys are familiar with our remote learning site. You're familiar with our our teachers and our Remind network. And certainly I hope that you feel that we're accessible to you throughout this whole process. But for me as a school principal, the thing that was most concerning to me was that when we moved into this school closure situation and all of the uncertainty that was surrounding that, I wanted to make sure that our students maintained their really close communication with their teachers, and that as much as possible, we tried to bridge the gaps that happened in terms of technology, in terms of devices, in terms of school nutrition, and just in general, trying to stay in touch with you guys, even though you weren't inside of our school building. So much happens organically in a school when you have kids walking in the hallways and teachers that are rubbing elbows in the offices, and that we just see each other in school. And it's so easy to fall out of touch when we are engaged in a remote learning situation. And so I wanted to make sure that, remote learning didn't equate to, or social distancing didn't equate to emotional distancing, not at our school. I wanted to make sure that we kind of stayed in touch. And so I'm so deeply appreciative of the work that families have done to turn your kitchen tables and your living rooms into homeschool. And I'm deeply appreciative of the fact that our teachers have been really intentional about trying to maintain close contact with their kids through Zoom meetings and Google Hangouts, through the online platform, all of that. And so just all around, tough situation that we're in, certainly unprecedented. I've been in education for 23 years as a teacher and as an administrator, and we just don't have drills for a pandemic. We don't have drills for how to enter into school closure for 2 months. And this has been new. It's been a learning experience for everyone. I've sent out a number of Connect Eds from the principal's office, and a number of voicemails that I've been able to send to you through Remind. But I wanted to open up today and just take some time and make myself accessible to answer a few questions for you guys, talk a little bit about things that I know are on your mind, and just engage, like stay connected. So I will say this is, I'm using the district's Zoom license today. And so we should have room for anybody who wants to join the call. I don't think we're going to max out. And I'm also looking at the chat bar on the right-hand side of my screen. So I see a number of you guys have logged in and are sending each other some love, and I appreciate that. And also my phone is around here. It's blowing up, and I want to make sure that if you guys are trying to get in touch with me via text, that I'm receiving those messages. So that was from Mr. Guy. So with that in mind, I will just, I want to start this today out, and I don't think she's on the line. I haven't been able to kind of keep up with everybody who's logged in, but I want to start with a major shout out, okay? And I'll do this in other forums also, but I wanted to give a shout out. This week is National Education Administrative Office Professional Week. And as you all know, we have one member of our staff at the early college who has been here since the early college began in 2005. This has been our magna mater. This has been the person at our school who has held on to the ropes through 6 or 7 principal changes over the last 15 years, through a number of teaching changes. This is the angel on our shoulders. And honestly, there are a lot of mistakes that I would make, or a lot of mistakes that would be made worse if I didn't have Ms. Etheleen Wilkins, who was running our front office. And so I want to make sure that I start this meeting out with just a major shout out to Etheleen Wilkins. Her daughter, her granddaughter, Candace, is on the call with us. So proud of Candace. She's one of our super seniors. I remember 5 years ago when Candace came in as a freshman and how excited Ms. Wilkins was that her granddaughter was going to be in the school with us. But I would love for any of you guys that are on the call today who feel compelled, who have had interactions with Ms. Wilkins. When people call us from outside, it's her office, it's her phone, that she's the voice that meets the public. And I would really love for any of you guys who feel so compelled to send Ms. Wilkins an email and just say, hey, Ms. Wilkins, thank you so much for everything that you do for us. Because honestly, everyone, I may be the principal and I may leave the school, but the truth is that Ms. Wilkins runs the school. And it would be remiss of me to not say, she's our finance person. So she does all of our budget work. She's our Power School manager. So all of those report cards and all those Power School issues. And she's also our administrative office professional who just runs so much of that work. So behind every good principal and every good school and every good instructional team, you have people like Ms. Wilkins who just run the back office work. And I'm so thankful for her. I also want to take a moment. I want to give a shout out to our other administrative professional who works in our front office, and that's Gerald Williams. Mr. Williams, as you all know, is our community liaison. And on Monday, May 16th, which was it was that planning day after the governor closed school on March 14th. Sorry, this was March 16th. Mr. Williams immediately sprang into action. He and I worked to find out which of our students didn't have devices, who didn't have Wi-Fi, and we, with the help of Matthew Mayo, went out and we met you all and went in your homes, and we connected your devices to your Wi-Fi, and we just made sure that where devices were a limiting factor to kids entering remote learning, we wanted to come and bring those devices to you and make sure that they got logged in. And also throughout the last 5 weeks, Mr. Williams has been delivering lunches to our students that have indicated that they needed to have breakfast and lunch. The Edgecombe County's child nutrition program was important to them. And so, you know, again, our community liaison, I think Mr. Williams puts the word community in community liaison. He takes that so seriously. So I just wanted to send some love to Ms. Wilkins and also to Mr. Williams before we get started. So again, as we're talking today, I'm looking at our chat bar, and I just want to open up the floor for any discussions. I have had a bunch of you guys who have emailed me, and I've written your questions down on note cards. And so I'm going to start and just grab a few of these note cards and kind of start going through some of these issues. And as we get on these, if we have questions or if you have things that you want to chat about, please unmute yourself and chime in, okay? So the first one of these that I want to do is this note card here. This was sent to me by a student last week. She asked, when are course schedule changes being made? And so as you guys know, we normally meet with families every semester. We block out 3 weeks of time, and Ms. Hayes and Ms. Dawes meet with all of you, and you come into the building, and mom, dad, grandma, and student meet with us. And we have these family meetings, and those are check-ins that we do to make sure everything's okay. They're check-ins to make sure that any non-academic factors outside of school are things that we know about. And then also these are opportunities for us to talk about where you're going, what courses you want to take, and really to focus on your IGP, your individual growth plan. One of the things that I think is really important is that we try to customize the education program for every student at our school. And so this year we had to change that process because we were anticipating that school might get closed. It actually happened a lot quicker than we thought it would. But on Friday, March 13th, Ms. Hayes, Ms. Dawes, and I met with our students in grade level meetings, and we went through a batch course registration process where we established a new procedure. And then you guys will recall that later that next week, we sent letters to your homes. And what we did is we included your draft schedule, but then we also included a note, a letter from Ms. Hayes saying, please hold off on sending us requests for changes, that we would be sending you out a form to make sure that you guys were able to communicate with us about all of your schedule change forms in a uniform process, because it just wasn't possible for us to do that individually for 200 people. And we knew we wouldn't get it right without having your feedback. So Ms. Hayes has been working, Ms. Dawes has been entering college schedules all of last week, and that takes a significant amount of time. And Ms. Hayes is going to be sending out a form this week to get you guys to provide us feedback on your courses, and looking at summer and looking at fall, what kind of tweaks and changes you guys may need to make. I know in some cases you guys receive schedules and you thought, well, why is that on my schedule? That's not what I asked for. And almost always there's a good reason for that. Maybe a prerequisite hadn't been completed, or maybe the course wasn't being offered at the time that you needed, or maybe there was some other factor that Ms. Hayes and Ms. Dawes knew about, but that you weren't aware of because we weren't able to have our individual family meetings. So this week, if you guys will just check your Gmail, Ms. Hayes is going to shoot you guys out a course scheduling form. And then I'll send a follow-up remind message to let everyone know it's there. And that will give you a chance to complete your that form and give her feedback, so that we can make sure that entering the summertime and entering the fall, your schedules are as tailored to your needs as possible. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and if you guys have any questions about course changes or schedules, and if I can answer those, I'll try. Ms. Hayes is on the line, so maybe if you have a question and she can answer it, she's certainly welcome to chime in. And then I also want to say, if your question is specific to you, then remember that form will be coming out next week. So if you have any general questions, please unmute yourself. And while you're doing that, I'm going to check my chat bar and I'm going to check my phone because it's blowing up.
And guys, Miss Dawes communicated with me on Friday afternoon, and she said she's almost done putting college classes in. There were some college times that got changed that made a mess of people's schedules. So she's been working really hard on those. So like Mr. Smith said, as soon as we can get out that email where you can request changes, or if you have questions, you can put them in there. We're trying to, like Mr. Smith said, we're trying to get that out this week. So hopefully Ms. Dawes can work through those micro issues so that we can, get your feedback and correct some schedules if necessary.
I hear Rocky, Ms. Hayes.
Yeah, I'm wearing my golden retriever mom shirt today, so he thinks that he needs to talk all the time.
I hear you.
Hey, Mr. Smith.
Hey, Anna.
Hey, for the AR points this semester for the Netflix documentary, is that like for the full 15 points? And like, do we just choose the one from the link?
So Anna, that's a really great question. And I'm glad that you're asking that. The Netflix documentary option, I was really excited about, because I think sometimes we create opportunities for you guys to explore things that are neat and cool, but that you might not otherwise do because you just don't have enough time. I scrolled through those Netflix documentaries that are available to students, and I noticed that some are relatively short, like 45 minutes or an hour, and then some are like 6-part series that might take 6 to 9 hours to complete. And so what I wanted you guys to do is, as you decide, if you're going to do some of those Netflix documentaries, give me kind of your proposal as to how many points you think that particular one is worth. You'll notice that this grading period, this term, I lowered the points to earn an A from 25 down to 15. And so if you think that maybe your documentary is worth 10 or if it's worth 15, go ahead and propose that when you write your the response using that form. And I'll be really sensitive to that. I certainly don't want you guys to feel like you have to do 3 or 4 or 5 of those. But if you watch a 1-hour documentary, that's probably worth about 5 points. If you watch a 6-hour documentary, well, that's probably worth all 15. So you kind of use your judgment on that and kind of make a proposal to me and let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Have you watched any of those already, Anna?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, there were some really cool ones on there. I was excited about some of those options, and I appreciated Netflix making those free to us during this pandemic. Good question. Any other questions about class schedules or schedule changes, folks? Okay, so I have another question for you, or a comment. This one came from one of our freshmen last week, texted me, will I ever see my teachers again? Yes. Okay. Yes, you will see your teachers again. I feel pretty confident of that. I will say, guys, that we are trying as much as we can to engage you with Zoom calls and Google Hangouts and Google Meetings, in addition to the remote learning processes that we've done this year. And the main reason for that is because we feel like it's important for you to see our face and to hear our voice. And the same token, we want to see your face and we want to hear your voice. That said, if you aren't able, for whatever reason, to jump on those meetings, feel free to send your teacher an email and say, hey, if you have a few minutes, I'd love to chat. Last week, I reached out to a few students via text, and I just, late at night, 8:30, 9 o'clock, sitting on the couch, and I realized there are some folks I haven't heard from, and I just reached out to them and engaged them in kind of some back and forth via text just to say hello. And so if you're craving some FaceTime with people that are important to you, and I completely understand, my teachers when I was in K-12 were some of the most important people in my entire life. There were some parts of my home life that were a little challenging, and there were some parts of my home life that I just kind of wanted to keep at home. But I came to school and, Rob Slater and Mike Buckner and Peggy Cox and all of these wonderful teachers that I had at school, they were like my extended family. And so I missed them when I wasn't at school. I had perfect attendance from 9th grade to 12th grade because I never wanted to miss school. And if you're craving some one-on-one with one of your teachers, just reach out to them. I'll also say to all of the folks that are on the line, including parents, and maybe specific to parents, I don't think this is a new normal that we're in, but this is kind of like a new abnormal that we're in. Mr. Webb and I were talking a few minutes ago. He was up here at the school. We were talking about how I have laptops in my kitchen right now, that I have my kitchen table is a place where we're all doing schoolwork, that we have turned our living room into a surrogate dance studio. Like my house doesn't function the way it normally does. My schedule doesn't function the way it normally does. And it has really changed my daily routine and my kids' routine. And I think the social, emotional health of all of us is really important right now. So if you're seeing your kids getting depressed, if you're seeing them becoming withdrawn, if you're seeing them getting stressed, feel free as a parent to reach out to your child's teachers and say, hey, look, Johnny is kind of starting to feel a little isolated and withdrawn, struggling with some of your coursework, experiencing an undue amount of stress. Feel free to reach out to us and let us know, and we'll try to reach out to your kids. We know that in some ways teachers can sometimes be first responders to situations like that. And we also know that teenagers don't always tell parents everything that maybe parents wish that they would. So just please keep us in the loop and know that we are partners in that work. It takes a village, and we're part of your village. The other thing I'd like to say to the students that are on the line is that in terms of time, we have 15 days of regular school left. Okay, 15 days of T6. And we also have, there will be, and please nobody pass out when I say this, okay? But there will be at the very end of the semester, the very final 4 days of school, there will be an exam week. And exams are going to look a little different this year. There will be a culminating assignment from your teachers. In some cases, there will be a cumulative assignment that will allow us to have some diagnostic information on you to prepare for next year. But we will have a final week, May 18th through the 21st, as I think the dates on that, where we will give you guys a final culminating assignment. And then our school year ends May 21st. So we have about 20 days left, about 15 of school and of regular T6 work. And then we have about 3 or 4 days of a final exam, so to speak. And more information about that will be coming. I will say that our intent is not that exams are stressful, and also that our intent is not that the exam week this year in any way duplicates the typical exam week that we have. We are not having end of course tests. Okay, so parents, please know that state tests are not going to happen. We also are not going to have North Carolina final exams. And so these are all going to be teacher-made assessments, and they will be aligned with the instruction and the coursework that your kids have been doing, okay? So they will be student-friendly, and please know that. And then the other thing I would say to this question about will I ever see my teachers again is that May 4th through the 8th, but this is not next week, this is the following week, okay? So this is after this next week, it's the following week. May 4th through the 8th is Teacher Appreciation Week in North Carolina. And at the early college, we call that Team Appreciation Week. Every year, North Carolina's Teacher Appreciation Week is Team Appreciation. And that's because I think that all members of our staff are incredibly important and vital to the learning process that takes place at our school. We couldn't do what we do without Ms. Wilkins and Ms. Dawes and Ms. Hayes and Mr. Williams. And so if you are somebody who's feeling disconnected from our school in any way, please feel free to reach out during Team Appreciation Week and let those folks know that you miss them, that you need them, that you value them, and engage them, because that is why that's why we exist as educators. Is without you guys, we really don't have a sense of purpose. And so our purpose-driven careers are based on our love of students, our love of families. That's it for that question. I'm going to pause for a minute and see if anyone has any feedback. Feel free again to unmute yourself. Chime in if you want to introduce yourself. Feel free to do that, and then we'll let everybody chat. Anybody on that one? Okay, I see Aaron Coley is on the line, guys. I don't think I properly acknowledged Aaron Coley earlier. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, you're going to wave to me. You realize when you wave to me, nobody else can hear you or see you, Aaron. You got to wave back. You got to say something. Can you unmute and say hello?
Hey.
Hey, Aaron, that was profound. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. Aaron, what do you think of my old man beard that I've grown during remote learning?
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah? You working on yours?
Work on your hair. He's working on his hair.
Yeah, me too. There you go, Aaron. I almost wore a hat myself to this meeting, Aaron, because I haven't had a haircut in 5 weeks, so I'm in trouble.
He's purposely trying to grow his out.
There you go. Well, it's good to see you. Hey, Aaron, little known fact about Mr. Smith is that when I was in college, I had long hair all the way down below my shoulders. I was a total Appalachian State granola. I pulled my hair back in a ponytail. So I was wearing the Bergenstocks and the ponytail. Yeah.
Bring that back, Mr. Smith.
Okay, Anna. I'll
Oh
do that just
man,
for you.
Mr. Smith.
Okay, so I have another question that came to me that said, "Are we getting grades this year?" Okay, and this was actually part of a two-part question that a student sent me earlier last week. The first part of the question was, "Mr. Smith, why are we getting graded work and other students at other schools are not?" And that's a separate question. This one is, "Are we getting grades this year?" And I want to talk a little bit about grades. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is, and this is just kind of me being honest with everyone, kind of throwing some real talk at you. I don't love grades, okay? And I'm not driven by grades, and I really never have been. And one of the things that I think is unfortunate about the system we've set up in North Carolina is, and really across the state, is that we almost have an infatuation with grades. And I'm not trying to be too philosophical with everyone, but I remember when Sophie, my 9-year-old, she was coming up through kindergarten, and in kindergarten and first grade and second grade, all of her report cards were standards-based report cards. They were all, they identified what skills that she was trying to learn and what level of mastery she was trying to accomplish. And then I remember when she went to third grade, and in third grade, she received her first grades. And, you know, she came home one day with an 80 on a math quiz, and she was devastated. She didn't know what an 80 meant. And it was almost like a hit to her self-esteem and her sense of self-worth. And I remember at that moment as an educator being sensitive to the fact that we have developed a system in which grades extrinsically motivate us. In other words, up to that point, Sophie had been intrinsically motivated to learn. And then when she entered third grade, the idea that there was a grading system, an A through F grading system, and that somehow now she needed to not just be trying to learn material, but also trying to reach a certain level of grades, that changed the way she approached school. And so since then, I've always talked about trying to focus on the learning and letting the grades follow. And so in remote learning, I think more than ever, and I have half of my instructional staff is on the line here, our real concern in remote learning is that we continue the learning. Like, it's not remote grading time, it's remote learning time. And what we really are trying to do is to understanding that everybody's working at home in homeschool, and understanding that we're not going to be able to get done as much in a remote learning environment as we can in a traditional environment. We want to continue learning, and we are sensitive at the early college to the fact that you're still playing the grade game. Like, we know that that's important to you, and we know that it's important to your transcripts, and it's important to like your pursuit of college, and that we know that grades are not going away. But I want to say up front, before I answer this question about grades, that we are focused on learning first, and that all of your teachers are focused on learning. Mr. Webb came in today to the school and spent 2 hours in his classroom today recording instructional videos because he wanted to make sure that you were teed up to learn properly. And we'll take care of the grades. Now, to your question, why are we grading here at the early college A through F, and why are the other schools moving to pass-fail? The state of North Carolina on March 27th released some guidance to schools, and they identified several factors for remote learning, and they call them critical factors for remote learning. And if your school was meeting these critical factors for remote learning, then we had permission from the state to go ahead and maintain our current grading system, to sustain what we were already doing. And it's really important at the early college in particular that we're trying to align our grading system with the fact that the community college also has a grading system. And so many of our students are taking community college courses while they're also taking high school courses. In fact, I would say upwards of 80% of our students are taking either one or more community college courses while also taking early college courses. And we wanted as best we could to meet those critical factors so that we could align your report cards, so that your ECC grades and your early college grades both were aligned. And so I reached out to Dr. Bridges and to Ms. Futrell and to Mr. Batts, and I made the case that the early college, because we had taken care of device access and because we had made sure that students had access either to Wi-Fi or to packets, And because our teachers have been able to pivot so quickly from the governor's announcement on March 14th to us scaling up our remote learning system on March 16th, that we were meeting those critical factors for remote learning. And after reviewing my request, Dr. Bridges gave us consent to continue and to sustain the practices that we were already doing. Now, that said, she asked us to be two things when it comes to grading. She asked us to be compassionate, and she also asked us to be flexible. And so our teachers will validate, those who are on the line, that I've talked a lot about being compassionate and flexible working with students. We know that all of the coursework you guys are doing at home, you're doing asynchronously. And what I mean by asynchronously is that you're not doing it according to a normal schedule. When Anna is doing her English 4 work is probably at a different time than when Estevan's doing his and when Chantel is doing hers. And so all of your work is being done asynchronously, and we're trying to be as compassionate and flexible as we can with grading. Now, that said, on Thursday of this past week, the state board released some additional guidance, okay? And so I want to talk about that additional guidance that was released on Thursday. That guidance has to do with how to make sure that the grading systems we use in North Carolina hold students harmless for the fact that we're in a pandemic and schools are closed. And none of you guys at home signed up to do homeschool when you sent your kids to school. But because of no fault of your own, and because of the fact that everyone is in a unique circumstance right now, the state set up some new guidelines. And I will share with you, I believe strongly that these guidelines are well suited to make sure that in terms of grades, every student is taken care of and held harmless. I'm grateful that as the state principal of the year and also as an advisor to the State Board of Education, I had a voice in creating these policies, and I had a voice in advocating to our other advisors and also to the State Board of Education members why they should accept this policy. Okay, and so I'm going to lay out for you guys the 3 aspects of this policy, okay? And I think you'll understand why it's designed to hold students harmless when it comes to grades, okay? And before I do, I want to say this. Some of you may not be aware, particularly some of our freshman parents and students that are on the phone, you guys may not be aware that on your high school transcript, even though you receive report card grades for T4, T5, and T6, the only grade that actually ends up on your high school transcript is your final grade. So when you apply to UNC Wilmington or to NC State or to North Carolina A&T, they only see your final grade for each course. They do not see your interim term grades. They don't even see your exam grades, except for your end of course tests. But they do see your ACT, and they see your final grades. And so the final grades for this year for all students will reflect one of the following 3 options for you, and I'm going to lay these out for you. And these 3 options are intended to make sure that your grades are as high as possible, and also that your grades do not do harm to you, okay? And I appreciate that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, okay? And so here they are, okay? If you are able to fully engage in your coursework, okay? You are at home doing remote learning, you have access to Wi-Fi and to devices, you're able to engage with your teachers and to get your work done, then we're going to allow you to select one of the 2 highest grades for your final transcript, okay? Either your grade as of March 13th for this school year. Now remember, March 13th was the Friday before we went home for this school closure, okay? And if you were making for example, if you were making a B on that March 13th and that was going really well, but in remote learning, your grades have slipped a little bit, again, through no fault of your own, you're doing the very best you can, but online learning has been a little bit more challenging, then maybe in remote learning you end up with a C for the year. What will go on your transcript will be that B that you had for March 13th. In other words, if your grade for March 13th is higher than your final summative grade for this school year, what will go on your transcript will be that March 13th grade, okay? And so I'm going to grab an example. Let's see who's on the line. I see there's Annie Lawrence. Okay, so I'm going to use Annie as an example. And Annie, I hope you don't mind, okay? Let's say Annie was taking underwater basket weaving class, and on March 13th, on that Friday, Annie went home and she had an A+ in that underwater basket weaving class because she's really good at underwater basket weaving. But in remote learning, underwater basket weaving has gotten kind of tough. Annie may not have a pool, and she may not even have the materials to do basket weaving. And watching those instructional videos just hasn't been as effective for Annie as in-person instruction. And so in remote learning, Annie is going to end the year with a C for underwater basket weaving. Well, to hold her harmless, what will go on her final transcript for this class is that A+ that she had as of March 13th. So good job, Annie, A+ in underwater basket weaving. Now, my expectation as her principal is that Annie's going to continue working and she's going to continue learning, because we're not really in this for the grades. We're in this for the learning. Okay, that's always my focus, and I want that to be her focus. And so I don't want Annie to worry that much about her grade. But let's say the reverse was there, and let's say that Annie was making a C in remote learning. She was making a C in underwater basket weaving on March 13th. But in remote learning, Annie has become a genius at underwater basket weaving. I mean, she just gets it. Online learning for underwater basket weaving has boosted her grade. And by the end of the semester, Annie's going to have an A+ in underwater basket weaving through remote learning. Way to go, Annie. Again, good job. On her transcript, we're going to give Annie an A. We're going to give her an A because that was the highest grade that she had, and she needs that opportunity to pull her grade up. So between those two options, we're going to give Annie the highest grade that she possibly can. Now, there is a third option, and I want to make sure that I'm clear with you all about this. And parents, this is something I want to make sure you hear. Let's say that Annie had an F on March 13th in underwater basket weaving. Now, Annie's not an F student, but underwater basket weaving is just a really tough class. And she didn't know that school was going to be closed, and she just happened to have an F for whatever reason on March 13th. Now, in remote learning, Annie she doesn't have Wi-Fi, even though she's on my call today. Annie doesn't have Wi-Fi. She doesn't have the materials to do underwater basket weaving, and Annie is babysitting for 3 kids, and her family's working 2 jobs. And Annie is having a tough time in remote learning because it's a hard period of time. What's going to happen is that at the end of this year, instead of Annie getting that F, and instead of Annie being held accountable for remote learning in underwater basket weaving, Annie's going to receive a pass, or Annie's going to receive a withdrawal. Okay? There are 2 codes that we can use, and these are new codes. We've never had access to these before until this year. But that policy I was talking with you about that I was able to have a voice in, that the state board approved on Thursday, now allows us to give Annie 1 of 2 grades for this underwater basket weaving class. Remember, she had an F on March 13th. Annie's going to be able to get either a pass. If she ekes out a D for the class, she can get a pass, and that will give her the credit for the class so she doesn't have to repeat it. Or if Annie has continued to struggle and she still has an F at the end of the year, we'll be able to give Annie a withdrawal. And what a withdrawal means is that Annie will not have a negative impact on her grade point average for that underwater basket weaving class. And I'm really grateful that the state board has allowed us to really have these options. We either have a graded option, whichever is the highest, March 13th or the end of the year, or we have a pass withdrawal option. But what I want to emphasize is that no student is going to fail any course in spring semester in grades 9 through 11, really 9 through 12, in the state of North Carolina, okay? So no student is going to have on his or her transcript for spring 2020 an F in North Carolina, because we want to hold students harmless for the impact of this pandemic upon your grades. Now, guys, that's a lot of information I just gave you, and I need to admit that this policy just came out on Thursday, and I haven't even had a chance to really talk with my staff about this. I know they've received an email from NCDPI, and there's a frequently asked questions that has been issued, but I haven't even had a chance to talk with my staff about this. So this may be new information for some of the folks on the line who work with me. But I'm going to pause. I'm going to ask, do you have questions about that? And feel free to ask specific questions or general questions, or you can follow up with me after this call if you like. So I'm going to pause, and if you will, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, ask your question, and then please remute yourself, and I'll respond.
Hey, I'm Mrs. Trinidad. I'm one of the science teachers at the school. And I'm sure this is a question a lot of parents probably have, or some of our students. But if they choose the withdrawal option, do they have to retake that course? Does that mean they don't get credit? It's just almost like they didn't take that course?
Ms. Trinidad, you're correct. If a student withdraws from a course, what that indicates is that they had not demonstrated sufficient mastery of the standards for that course in order to receive credit for it. One of the things that the state was cognizant of was that students need to, like these required graduation credits, they exist for a reason, and these courses exist, and that they did not want to water down the value of a high school diploma. And so if a student, for example, is taking underwater basket weaving, and if that happens to be a required course for graduation in North Carolina, they can withdraw from it, but they will have to retake that course next year. Good question.
Mr. Smith, Esteban in the chat bar asked about how this affects college classes. Was this just for high school classes?
Okay, good question, Esteban. Esteban, we're looking at that on a case-by-case basis. Our hope is that you guys will continue with your college classes and will push through and to earn your credits for those classes. If you are in a situation in which you don't think that you're going to be able to earn credit for those classes, and I do know, Esteban, we're in a tough situation because all of our community college classes have moved online. If you find that you're in a situation where you feel like that pass withdrawal option is something that you're going to be interested in, the issue with the community college is that they're not moving to a pass withdrawal system. They're moving to a system, and Ms. Hayes, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because I'm processing this information right along with everyone else. But my understanding, Esteban, is that you can continue to earn the A through D option with the community college. But if you get to a point where you're going to fail a course, or if you're getting to a point where the grade you're going to earn for that course might pull down your GPA, okay? And this is kind of a gray area where we haven't fully explored this, okay? You're going to have the option to withdraw and to retake that course again. But my understanding is that the community college system, and again, Ms. Hayes, correct me if I'm wrong, community college is not going to offer the pass option that I just mentioned. In other words, you're not going to be able to get a passing credit for the course that doesn't impact your GPA. You're going to have the option to withdraw or to get the regular grade. Ms. Hayes, does that ring true to you?
I know Ms. Dawes, when she was communicating with some of the CIHS people last week, she was getting a bunch of new information. So I'm not really clear on exactly what the college transcript option is. But I think you are accurate. Like, they would actually have to be emergency withdrawn from the college classes at this point in the semester.
Yep. And listen, I will say to everyone that we did this just on Friday. We had a student who, and we've been working with her all semester, but just Wi-Fi access wasn't working. I know that Edgecombe County is kind of like the Bermuda Triangle in places where, you know, on one side of the street, you have amazing Wi-Fi access with 5 bars and, you know, you can stream Netflix. And on the other side of the street, you got nothing, right? I mean, like your phone literally disconnects from the grid when you cross from one side to the other. And so we've had students that have really been struggling to meet the online classes for both high school and college. On the high school side, we've been able to accommodate with work packets and with workarounds. We've been very creative with that. But on the college side, their expectation is that students are trying to make the effort to engage with the online environment. They've published some information about where Wi-Fi hotspots are on campus and also in the community. But there's not the workaround. So on the college side, you do have the withdrawal option, but you don't have the pass option. So Esteban, I hope that answers your question. I am reading the chat bar, and Ms. Hayes, thank you for reading the chat bar, because sometimes I kind of zone out in these meetings and I'm not able to kind of keep up with it. So if there are any other questions I missed, please bring those to my attention. Other questions, guys? Feel free to unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
Mr. Smith, this is Mr. Sano. How are you doing?
Mr. Sano, doing well. Good to see you.
It's good to see you all. Who has the list of where the grades were on March 13th? I have a rough idea of where he was, but it's been a while now, and I know if I look in Power School today, it is different from what it was on March 13th.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Sano, you have asked a magic question. I'm on a working group with the with NCDPI that is working through the implementation issues for the policy that was established on Thursday at the state board meeting. And I'm going to be actually creating a PowerPoint for principals across the state for them to use to discuss this new grading policy with their staff. So lucky me, I got tasked with that responsibility. One of the questions I was asked on Friday during our working group Zoom call was whether or not we needed a uniform process across the state for schools to determine what the grade was on March 13th. And my guidance to the state was that given how different our school systems are, some are year-long schools, some are on the block 4x4, some, like my friend in Tabari Wallace at West Craven High School, some are on the quarter system. Some, like us in Edgecombe County, have 3 grading terms and then a final exam. Some schools are in year-round models. So given how different school systems are set up, I didn't think that a one-size-fits-all template was necessary and that it would even be useful. And that I know that within our own schools, we could come up with our own internal systems to figure that out. So this grading guidance came in on Thursday. The implementation guidance is going to come out on Wednesday of this upcoming week. So principals and schools across the state are going to get some implementation guidance. We're going to have to create that. And what we're going to have to do, Mr. Sano, is we're going to have to go into Power School, and our teachers are going to have to go in, and we're going to have to fabricate what that March 13th average was by going in and changing the scale for all tasks that were entered after that March 13th to 0. And then recalculating our spreadsheets and figuring out what that grade is. So it's going to take us a little bit of time to do that. I will say that I have every confidence that our teachers will be able to do that probably within a week or so. And they're going to know the nuances of how best to do that process. In our school, we've already archived our T5 grades. So I'm going to need to get Ms. Wilkins involved in this conversation so we can figure out how best to do that. So if you'll be patient with us, we'll come up with that and we'll communicate that to you. I will say, Mr. Sano, that the one caveat, the one concern I have about this policy with the March 13th grade versus the end of the semester grade is that I don't want our teachers and I don't want our students to let up on their learning. Like, I'm concerned that if kids figure out, hey, my grade on March 13th is higher than my grade is going to be for remote learning, I'm concerned that they may just stop. And that would be a predictable but unintended consequence of this policy, because I don't want us going into August of 2020 with a 3.5 month learning gap. I want us to finish the school year strong, and I want us to minimize the summer learning loss, particularly in the areas of math, so that we can start school year out as ready for 2020, 2021 as possible. So if you'll be patient with us, we'll get you those numbers. We'll be really transparent about it, but I also want to be transparent about my concern.
That's fine. I appreciate you answering the question. I think, honestly, in my case, I think Tristan's grades have gone up in each class. I was just curious, more for a comparison than think that grade was higher than what it is now.
Yeah, and I think there's also, Mr. Sano, the possibility that if students see what their March 13th grade was, maybe their March 13th grade was a 78, and maybe that motivates them to get an 80 in remote learning so that on their grade point average, they get a 3.0 instead of a 2.0. Or maybe their March 13th grade was an 89, and in remote learning, that motivates them to get a 90 so that their grade point average reflects a 4.0 instead of a 3.0 for that class. So I think that there are some motivating factors that could be in place there too. So we'll try to get you guys that information soon and to communicate with you guys in ways that let kids know where they stand. I do think that early college kids are intrinsically motivated sometimes in a way that can surprise us. And I know that they're also motivated by their relationship with their teachers. And so I know that in my case, my daughter Sydney, who's working at home, the thing that motivates her is because she wants to meet the expectations of her teachers. She's a little less motivated by grades than she is about just doing what Ms. White and Ms. Long and Ms. Webb and all of her early college folks, Ms. Manley, what they need her to do. So we'll get that to you as soon as we can. I see a question in the chat bar from Ms. Hines about returning college textbooks. And Ms. Hines, we just don't have a process in place for that yet. If you'll give us a little while to think about that, we will figure that out. We do need those college textbooks back so that we can get those inventoried, so that we can distribute those for summer college classes, because the same question about getting back our spring semester textbooks also applies to summer textbooks. How are we going to get summer textbooks out to everyone? So we've got to work on that process and try to get that to you. Let's see what else we have in the chat bar. Okay. Any other questions on this issue of grading that I've taken about 20 minutes to explain? Okay. I do see Ms. Wilkins is on the line now. Ms. Wilkins, I don't know if you were on the line earlier when we gave you a shout out for Administrative Professionals Week. If you were, I hope you heard that. And if you weren't, just know that I wanted to start our Zoom call out today, Ms. Wilkins, with a shout out to you for Administrative Professionals Week. We normally recognize you while we're here at school for that, and we weren't able to do that this year. So I wanted to make sure that our families knew. I even told them the truth, Ms. Wilkins, that you run the school. So thank you for everything you do for us, Ms. Wilkins.
I did hear. Thank you.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so I don't hear any other questions about grades, but if something else does occur to you, please enter that in the chat box. Ms. Hayes is scrutinizing that chat box for us, and I'm going to move on to the next question I have from you guys right here, which is, whew, it's a doozy. What about prom? So, what about prom? We have a great prom committee at the early college. It is facilitated by two of our parents, Tina Parker and Spencer Pannington's mom, Mrs. Golly, her name escapes me right off the top of my head. Help me out, you guys. I'm drawing a blank. Ms. O'Trimsky. Thank you. O'Trimsky. Sorry, just it happens when you are getting old. Sorry. I had a dead spot there, but Ms. O'Trimsky and Ms. Parker, they manage that process. And one of the things I love about our prom committee is that they are all about developing student leadership. So Abby Brake and the team of early college students who have led our prom committee, remember that they did that poinsettia sale earlier in the year. They put on the Halloween costume bash to generate funds and to generate excitement about early college stuff. They do a fantastic job. And if there's anything that I've been disappointed about is that we were scheduled to have prom set up this Friday, and we were scheduled to have prom this upcoming Saturday, May 1st. And that's obviously not going to happen due to the governor's restrictions about the number of people who can get together at one time. Right now, we can really only get 10 people together at once. So with that in mind, the district is exploring, and at the state level, they're also exploring a virtual prom this year, and I really don't know what that looks like. I don't know what virtual proms really constitute, although I've seen a couple webinars and I've read a couple articles about it. It feels a little bit like I'm all dressed up and no place to go, but a virtual prom option has been discussed, and I don't have any further details than that. Another option that's been discussed is hoping that we flatten the curve quickly enough that we might be able to have some kind of event in mid to late July, which might also constitute a prom, but also might constitute like a back to school bash. So we're going to kind of keep our eyes open on that and monitor that situation. If a virtual prom option bubbles up, and if there's interest in that from our student body, then we may pursue that. And if we do, we will engage our prom committee on that because they have been leading the way on that. And I've always felt like at the early college, we really believe strongly in designing with students and not just designing for students. So just kind of stay tuned on that. And if you feel strongly that a virtual prom is something that you would like to do, put that in the chat bar, email Abby, and let your voice be heard on that. Okay. Any questions about prom before I move on? I do know that at the other traditional high schools, they have already begun issuing refunds for prom tickets that were sold. At the early college, we had not sold any prom tickets yet. They had been printed, but we hadn't sold any yet. And so we don't have refunds to issue for that purpose. And guys, I had a tuxedo I was going to wear this year. I am just as disappointed as anybody. Okay, so I have another question here. Okay, this came from a student this week, and I'm going to read it to you. I wrote it down word for word. I've heard there may be plans for a virtual graduation ceremony. What's up with that? So that's the question from one of our super seniors. And I'm going to share with you guys what I know about that, okay? And I want to be as transparent as I can. The governor has closed school for the rest of the year. and we're not allowed to have any kind of gatherings of this nature, anything more than 10 people in one place, until he revises his executive order to allow gatherings of this, of more than 10 people. And this has become very difficult for people who had weddings planned in the spring semester. My brother and sister-in-law just lost their mother. My brother's mother-in-law just died last week on Friday, and they've had to have a funeral and commemorative ceremony with less than 10 people present. So proms and graduation ceremonies are not the only areas that are impacted by this. Weddings and funerals and other just large gatherings, family reunions, etc. One of the things that EECHS is really committed to is that we feel really strongly that our super seniors have earned a graduation ceremony. Okay, we want to do something that's in person. We want to get all of you guys together. There's a magic energy that's in the room when our teachers and our scholars and our administrators and our families and our school leaders are all together in the same room. We want that to happen, okay? And please know that in my conversations with district leaders, I'm advocating for that, just like my buddy Donnell Cannon and Tara Parker at Southwest and Terry Hopkins at Tarboro High. We're all advocating for, if possible, an in-person ceremony. That said, we also do not know, okay? We don't know when that curve is going to flatten enough that the governor is going to allow gatherings of more than 10 or gatherings of more than 50. You may remember that initially when we entered school closure on March 14th, he had initially only allowed gatherings of 50. But then within a week, he revised that limit down to 10. And we're still at that limit of 10. And the governor has explained that he's going to use science and data and a 3-phase process to open back up the society. And at the end of that phase, phase 3 is opening up schools. So we've got to get through phase 1 and phase 2 before we can get to phase 3. And so what we do not want to have happen is we do not want August to start. We don't want our super seniors to go off to college, and for us not to have had some kind of ceremony to recognize your 5 years of accomplishment and to send you off in good fashion, okay? So we have had one meeting. It was this past Friday at 3 o'clock, okay? So about 48 hours ago, Friday afternoon, all of the administrators with Susan Hoke and with Dr. Bridges got together with Matthew Mayo, and 7 or 8 of us on the line. And we did have like a preliminary conversation about what that might look like, okay? What a virtual graduation ceremony might look like. And again, my hope would be that if we do a virtual graduation ceremony, that we might be able to do that in late May or early June. And if allowable, we might be able to have a follow-up ceremony in person just as soon as we're able to pull something like that off if the governor allows that to happen. Remember, that would be in phase 3 of his plan to reopen society. So there are discussions that have begun about a virtual graduation ceremony. And tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, Ms. Hayes and I have a call in which we're going to discuss a number of things, including the possibility of a virtual graduation ceremony and what that might look like at the early college. So if you guys will hold on, I have a call with Blaine Lilly, who is our student body president, today at 4 o'clock. Blaine's at work today, this afternoon, but he and I are going to speak at 4. In fact, he'll probably call during this Zoom call, and I'll have to call him back. But I wanted to get his input as president of our student body and ask him to discuss it with our student council to get their input about what might be sort of the salient critical factors that would be necessary for us to have a virtual graduation ceremony. And what we do assure you, okay, is that one, if we do go with a virtual graduation ceremony this year for the class of 2020, we will design that with you, okay? We'll design it with student input. And secondly, the other thing that I want to assure you is that if possible, okay, and if possible, there are a lot of factors there, we will have an in-person ceremony of some kind, okay? It may not look like our traditional graduation ceremony. It may be a graduation dinner, a graduation bash, a graduation celebration, or it might be a formal graduation ceremony, but we're just gonna have to monitor things. And we are nowhere close to phase 3 of the governor's plan to reopen society. We haven't really even entered phase 1 yet. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. I know that we've got some super seniors on the line. I saw Elena, I saw Sarah on here. There may be some others that have stuck with us through this call. If you guys want to chat about this, please feel free to unmute yourselves, introduce yourselves, and ask a question.
I do have a question. We were supposed to get the cords during award ceremony, which we obviously probably will not be having that. So how are we going to get like the cords and recognition and stuff like that?
So Ms. Hayes, I know you're on the line. If you want to kind of talk hypothetically about that, you're welcome to. Elena, I'll initially tell you that we're early in this process, and Ms. Hayes and I haven't even had a chance to meet yet. My meeting with the district was on Friday at 3 o'clock, and Ms. Hayes and I have a meeting scheduled for 8 a.m. Monday morning. So I don't know, Ms. Hayes, if you want to chip in on that, or if you just want to say, you know, more information.
So the honor cords actually haven't come yet. But what I had in my mind was that when we had graduation rehearsal is when I was going to actually hand them to you, since awards night will not be happening. So I guess, Elena, right now, I don't know because I don't know what everything's going to look like, but you know that I'll communicate that with you guys as soon as, you know, we have a more clear picture of what's going on.
Yeah, so guys, I want to remind you to please mute your microphones so that we don't get that feedback loop. I just muted my microphone while Ms. Hayes was talking, and now I've unmuted mine. I'm still learning protocols for how to do Zoom meetings. What I also want to say to our parents and to our students, and this is something that all students I want to hear, grades 9 through 13, is that Ms. Hayes does a phenomenal job of communicating. I have so much admiration and respect for how close her relationship is with all of our kids, but in particular with our super seniors. Ms. Hayes manages our super senior house. She manages our college application process and our scholarship process. She manages the design of our graduation ceremonies. And every Friday, she sends a memo out called her Friday Notes to her super seniors. And she's so accessible. She has a live binder for all of the super senior issues that students can always access. So I don't think I've ever seen a counselor communicate as well as Ms. Hayes. All she ever really needs is for her super seniors to meet her halfway. She needs for them to just meet her halfway. So like when she sends an email, read the email. When she asks for your feedback, give her that feedback. And that's how we're so successful at getting all of our super seniors across the finish line. So when Ms. Hayes says, I don't know, as the answer to a question, there are a lot of questions I don't know the answer to. And I appreciate the fact that we're not just making up answers on the fly, but I don't know is an entirely acceptable answer, and we'll figure it out. So, you know, we don't know yet, right? What other questions do we have about this? Ms. Hayes, are you reading this chat bar here? Because you're getting a lot of shout outs from kids. I see a message.
Trying not to cry.
Yeah. I'm seeing a message here from Seth Stallings, and also looks like Nadia, asking questions about how to return books to the ECC library, and also books from Mr. Webb's English class that you guys have checked out to read for his class. We're going to figure that out. Please know that you're not going to have any overdue fines from the library. Even if you get an automated message saying so, you won't. And, you know, we'll figure out a process by which to get back books. You know, I'll just say that we're also going to have to figure out a process to get back Chromebooks that we've loaned out to folks. And, you know, there are a number of these processes we're going to have to figure out. So for now, if you guys will just hang on to those, keep them safe, keep them dry, and we'll make sure that we are able to get those back. One option I'll just say to you that I'm thinking about out loud is possibly waiting until fall to get that stuff back when you're back in the school building. So I'm not terribly worried about that because I know how responsible everyone is, but we will get back with you guys about processes for that, okay? I do want you to know that Mr. Williams has kept a great inventory of the Chromebooks we've loaned out. Mr. Webb keeps an inventory of which of his students has which numbered book, and we will, you know, we'll be in touch with you guys collectively and individually. Got a question here from Sarah Heath in the chat bar. Yeah, Sarah, I saw that about the drive-through graduation process. We want to get feedback from you all about how that might work. Whatever we do, okay, I think we will record it. We'll piece it together into a uniform video that we can all live stream at one time and enjoy together, and that you guys can also have archived forever. Now, we always live stream our graduation events, but in this case, we would want to live stream it. And so, yeah, I've seen those drive-through graduation processes. I don't know how I feel about that exactly. And Ms. Long, I see that about the Rubik's Cubes. So it sounds like we've got some brainstorming we need to do about some processes for end of the year. Yeah. Sarah, I'm just going to say this also to you. I've also thought about yearbooks and how can we get yearbooks signed by our staff, and trying to get you guys access to our staff so that you guys can get those things signed, because I know that's something that you're going to want, while also practicing good social distancing, 6 feet apart, no groups of more than 10. So we'll figure that out too, okay? Any other questions about graduation? Okay, if so, feel free to unmute yourself and feel free to interrupt me. But I've got another question here. This one says, any changes to calendar for the end of the school year or for next year? And the answer to that, guys, is not right now. We will not be modifying, to my knowledge, and I think Susan Hoke is on the line. So Susan, feel free to correct me. But we have had no discussions that I'm aware of about modifying our school calendar for this year. So at the early college, May 21st is still the end of our school year. Our teachers have some planning days the following week, and we should be wrapped up by June 1st with our traditional school calendar. There are, and I will say this to everyone because I'm on this working group at NCDPI with the state board, there are several calendar proposals that we're floating that may allow the school systems to open up early for fall of 2020. We have lost from March 13th to early August in terms of in-person instruction. And so we know that there's going to be a 20 to 30% learning loss in some courses. And in some courses, as like math, we're concerned that there might be 40 to 50% learning loss. And that might be in a best case scenario. So the state board and the agency, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, are putting together proposals. My buddy Freebird McKinney, who is our liaison with the General Assembly, is putting together some proposals that might allow school systems to start school early by 1 or 2 weeks. They're also putting together, we have $70 million that have been allotted for this, some possibility of some kickstart programs in the early elementary grades, K-3, to try to get kids that may have been behind and might have qualified for summer reading camps for Read to Achieve, to give them some early exposure to school and to their teachers, and to kick off fall of 2020 early. And then there are also some other options. We're trying to find some paid professional development for teachers to come in effective July 1st, so that teachers could have some paid PD before their traditional school year starts. So a lot of things that are up in the air. All of those things I just described require approval from the General Assembly, and they require approval from the governor, Governor Cooper. And so there is a House working group that is being chaired by a bipartisan group. Craig Horn is on chairing one side, and Ashton Clemens and Craig Myers are chairing the other part of that committee. And they are putting forth these proposals in the House for the calendar, for the budget, for all those things I just described. They're going to send those to the Senate in a process they call crossover, reach resolution, and then send them to the governor's desk to get them approved. And if all that happens pretty quickly, then we may be able to start school early next year. I do not anticipate that the early college will do that, okay? I anticipate that the calendar that Ms. Hoke worked on with the district, and that the early college has already approved and pushed out to everyone, I expect that that's going to be the calendar that we use next year, unless I'm told otherwise, okay? And I think it's important for me to note that I don't make all of those decisions about the early college. Certainly, my central services leaders, Mr. Batts, Ms. Futrell, Dr. Bridges, certainly all of them have a voice in that, and Ms. Hoke will guide us through that process if we ultimately decide to revise this. Hang tight. I know this is Blaine calling. Hey, Blaine. Blaine, I'm on my Zoom call with students and faculty and parents. Can I call you right back? Okay, but no, about 15 to 20 minutes. They all are saying hello to you right now. Hold on one second. Let's try this. Let me put you on speakerphone and let our student body president say hello to everybody who's on the Zoom call. Hold on. All right, Blaine, can you say hello?
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing good.
Blaine, you hope everyone's doing well.
Oh, that is true. My 5 years have gone to waste.
All right, Blaine, I'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Call you back in a bit. Bye. Okay, so that was Blaine, our student body president. But what I was saying was that if Dr. Bridges and Central Services leadership tell us we'll start our calendar early, then certainly we will. But my anticipation is, because our early college calendar is already aligned with the community college calendar, that we will be good to go, okay, for fall 2020, unless I hear otherwise. Any other questions about that? Okay, so I've got a couple other notes here. Class of 2025 interviews and also Bridge Week. We are communicating, have been, and will continue communicating with the 8th graders that are applying to the early college. Since school has been closed officially for the rest of this year, Ms. Hayes and I on Monday morning at 8 o'clock are going to add this to our to-do list. But we're going to be talking about doing remote interviews with our class of 2025 and going ahead and pushing through that application process. Normally by now, we've already done orientation. We've already identified those students. We've already got them scheduled to come to Bridge Week, but things are going to look a little differently this year. So that process is still underway. We're going to be doing remote interviews in May and communicating with our 8th graders. So if you know an 8th grader who applied to the early college, they'll be hearing from us really soon. Okay. Anything else in the chat bar?
I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
Seth Stallings is telling me that my flashlight is on. Yep, it is, Seth. I've got my overhead lights on to avoid the halo effect, but I've got my flashlight on to try to give me some front lighting, because this is my studio effect, Seth. Let's see. Okay. Any comments before I run through these last few things? All right. So guys, here's what we have. Want to mention, again, Team Appreciation Week, which is May 4th through the 8th. So if your family or if you guys personally want to do something, please just keep that in mind. Know that our staff truly appreciate that we recognize Team Appreciation Week of the first week of May. And I have a few things up my sleeve, a lot of things up my sleeve, because I love our team and, you know, they're my dream team. And I can't wait to just honor them for all the work that they do. But I also want to let parents know, in particular, and scholars, even just something that is as short as a note, an email that you send, or a text message, or a remind message, all that means a lot. And I know that on Friday night, when the governor had sent out his message that he was going to be closing schools for the rest of the year, a couple of my teachers reached out to their classes via YouTube. Ms. Long and Ms. White sent out videos to kids saying, look, I love you. May not see you again this year in person, but it doesn't change the fact that remote learning is going to continue and that our relationship matters. If you want to reach out to our folks, I know that they appreciate it. Turtle Idol is still on this year. Mr. Guy texted me a few minutes ago that we have 11 entries so far. And he had originally set today, April 26th, as the final deadline for getting in those entries. So guys, if you want to try to submit an entry for Turtle Idol, please do that. I will share with you, I have not mentioned this previously, but for my first time in 6 years at the early college, your fearless principal will be making an entry into Turtle Idol. I fully expect that I will be embarrassing myself during this entry, but you know, you only live once. So Hakuna Matata, there will be an entry from Mr. Smith, and it's going to be brutal. So just know that. And I would love, love, love for you, if you've been reluctant, if you've been thinking about it but haven't done it yet for whatever reason, just go for it. Okay. I mean, Turtle Idol's a talent show, but it's really not a competition. I mean, it's something that we just enjoy, showcasing kids. In an in-person setting, it takes courage. It takes so much courage for kids to get on stage and to perform for their peers. And one of the things I love about doing this in person is we have so much just goodwill in the room. I mean, we have applause, we have encouragement. Beasia, I know that you're on our line. You remember last year when you sang for our student body, and you remember that moment where you choked up a little bit and fear set in, and you remember our student body cheering you on, and then you work through it, and you remember, I hope you remember the applause you got after that. Oh man, I mean, that just, like, all of us, all the old folks in the room who are soft-hearted, we all had tears in our eyes, and our tears were for you, but they also were for our kids and for the student body, because there's so much family support that takes place during Turtle Idol. So I'll tell you, I never entered a talent show when I was growing up. I was afraid that I might be humiliated, that people might laugh at me. Now I'm at a point where if people laugh at me, that's okay. I'm hoping they're laughing with me because I've learned to laugh at myself. And I hope that those of you out there who have been considering entering something and haven't, if you're on this call, I hope that you will reach down deep and will find that courage and just take a risk and know that we will be good stewards of your talent, and Mr. Guy will set you up to showcase your talent. And know that I'm going to be in there with you, and that I fully expect that I will have egg on my face the entire time, and that and hopefully it'll be a good experience, a good laugh. If there's anything during this pandemic, during this period of school closures that I think is important, I think that we need to make memories. And so I want to make a memory with you. Please submit your Turtle Idol submissions. And if you can't get it in today, send Mr. Guy a text and tell him that you'll get it into him on Monday or Tuesday so that he knows it's coming. Okay. Question from Seth, can we send in multiple entries? Seth, I don't know. I think that's the case, but if you'll email Mr. Guy and find out, that'd be great. Estevan, I don't know if I'm going to get that first place. I'm probably going to get that last place. And that's okay with me. I'm the old guy. I probably should get last place. But man, did you guys hear Miss Trinidad sing last year? Girlfriend can sing. And so for her to win last year, that was totally awesome. You know, and then we had her sing at graduation with Jalen. That was just riveting. So I'm hoping that she'll sing for us again this year. TikToks, yeah, bring your TikTok game. Love to get TikTokers in this. So yeah, if you're a TikToker and you're not going to enter in Turtle Idol, you know, I'm going to call you out. I don't know why you can do it for TikTok and you can't do it for Turtle Idol. So please submit your TikToks to us. I was hoping we would have 5 or 6 or 7 TikTok entries because I enjoy those. I can't make one. I've got no rhythm, but I sure enjoy watching them. Yeah, cool. Okay, so guys, a couple other things. We have some folks that have been receiving breakfast and lunch through the early college, and early on during the first month or month and a half of the pandemic, your family may not have needed breakfast and lunch with the early college. It's through ECPS Child Nutrition, but we know things are hard. We know, you know, we have 90 million people in America who are out of work as a result of the pandemic. A ton of unemployment claims that have come in. We know it's tough. So if you have not been receiving food, breakfast and lunch, but you need to do that, if things have changed in your family, please reach out to me. You can just respond to any of those text messages that I've sent. They go back to me. They do not go to everyone. And let me know, and I'll have Mr. Williams add you to our list. We've had a couple parents do that in the last week. And if your family needs breakfast and lunch coming through the ECPS Child Nutrition, let us know, okay? And Mr. Williams will deliver that. The school system had been making those deliveries every day. After spring break, they pivoted, and now they're making deliveries on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The Tuesdays deliveries are for Wednesday and Thursday, breakfast and lunch, and the Thursday deliveries are for Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, okay? So we're bringing you several days worth of food at one time. So please let me know that. Just please respond to my text. And again, that's confidential. Stays between you and me, and then Mr. Williams will add you to that list, okay? And let's see, last thing. I think that may be it. Yeah, so if you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to chat about, questions that you wanted to ask, or things that you wanted me to respond to, or any of our staff who happen to be on the line, now would be the time to do that. We've been together for about an hour and 10 minutes or so. So feel free to unmute yourself, please introduce yourself, and then please ask your questions.
I'm Mr. Williams, and I don't have questions. I just want to personally say I miss every single one of the staff members and the students. I miss wishing you guys a wonderful weekend on Fridays as y'all left to come back. I can't wait to see you whenever that may be. If you guys saw my email, if you will, when you get a chance, if you haven't checked your email in the past couple of days, if you'll check your email, I sent out something. It's a wonderful opportunity to get service learning. If you don't have any other ways to get service learning, outside of that, that's That's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Yeah, so Mr. Williams sent an email out to the student body last week, working on a special project with me. And super seniors, I've got you guys covered. Okay, the project he's working on is just like the project I'm working on, but I was doing one with the class of 2020, and he's doing one with kids in grades 9 through 12. So if you got his email, please respond to that you were interested in supporting this special project that he's working on. And you know what I'm talking about, okay? We're not going to reveal it to the teachers. Anybody else have a comment, question, remark for anybody on the line? For me, I'll be glad to answer any question. And if you don't want to ask it online, you're welcome to ask me to respond to me by text. I'll be glad to shoot you back a response. Put it in the chat bar. I see a lot of I love yous coming through the chat bar. Ms. Long, I see a call out from Sydney that you should do Renegade for Turtle Idol.
So I was promised a tutorial video from Sydney and from Lewis, and I'm still waiting for those.
Ms. Long, I've tried to do.
I'm working on it. I got a few moves. I got a few of them down.
Yeah, I've got the first 3 or 4, but after that, my learning skill, my learning disposition.
Fast.
Yeah, I struggle. I'm trying.
Miss Long, now you know how your kids feel learning statistics.
That was mean.
So parents in particular, I'm so glad to have a Zoom call where we have parents, we have staff members, and we have students on the line. Parents, do you have any questions for me? I have a couple for you that I was going to wrap up the call with, but I wonder, do you all have any questions that you guys want to ask for the good of the group?
You're on the mic.
Mr. Smith.
Hey, Miss Farmer.
Hey, why I ain't seen you at Lowe's?
Oh, why haven't you seen me at Lowe's?
Yes.
Miss Farmer, I have been at Lowe's. I've been wearing a mask.
Well, you know, I was hoping you were going to tell me it was because you were staying at home with your family.
Well, I have been staying at home with my family, but I've been going a little stir crazy too, Miss Farmer. So I've been working on my to-do list, and we have been working in the yard. Miss Farmer, let me tell you how bad it is, okay? And let me just check real quick to see if my wife is on the line before I say this. She was on earlier, and I don't see her. She may have signed off. I see Sydney. So it's so bad, Miss Farmer, that we have refinished our kitchen table. That's how stir crazy we've been going. Is we pulled our kitchen table out into the garage and we sanded that thing down. It was 150 years old. We sanded it down through the multiple coats of paint and finish, and we've been refinishing that table. So we've been busy. And I have seen, so Ja'Cory Highsmith's mom also, as you know, works at Lowe's, and she's seen me several times go through the checkout line.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, that store's crawling with folks right now.
It is. Nobody at Lowe's seems to know social distancing.
They don't.
I've noticed you guys are doing a good job of setting up your line and putting the where do you stand, but those people are standing 12 inches apart. They're not standing six feet apart.
No, they want to be all up on you.
Hey, so parents, and I see a number of folks on the line. I do want to ask, is there anything that you guys need from us that we're not doing? Is there anything that we need to be doing better? And is there anything that I need to be aware of that I'm not aware of as the principal? You know, we're doing the best we can here. I do know that we're limited to our own perceptions. And what I value so much from parents is that you guys help us to see things from more than one point of view. So to any of the parents that are on the line, please answer any of those questions. How are we doing? Is there anything we need to do, be doing better? Is there anything I need to be aware of? Yeah, I want to listen and learn from you. I got crickets right now. Okay. Well, by email, by text message, by phone, I'm available to all of you at any time, okay, 24/7. So just know that, that's the case. In particular, when it comes to learning issues specific to your classes, if you'll just please reach out to your teachers. They really thrive on the relationship that we have with our families. And if you guys need our teachers for any reason to answer questions, or if there's something that they can do better in remote learning, we're all working through this process together. And I really love that we are operating in good faith. So please know that if it's an issue that teachers need to respond to, please reach out to them. If it's an issue that I need to respond to, certainly please reach out to me at any time, even if it's something that you just want to make sure I'm aware of and that maybe I haven't thought of. I'm here for you guys, and we serve you. Okay, so one last check of the chat bar, and then I'm going to sign off with thanks. So let me just check the chat bar one last time. So Sarah Heath, submission for Turtle Idle entries. I think Mr. Guy just said today, but like I said earlier, if you need more time, feel free to just email him and see if he can give you another day or two. Thank you to the Keels, Mr. and Mrs. Keel, Franklin. Appreciate you guys as well. You guys have been troopers with us for 5 years. So proud of Franklin and everything he's accomplished. Appreciate you guys being supportive family members. There's never been a time when I've reached out to you over the last 5 years that you guys have not been wholly supportive of our school. And so please know how much I appreciate that. Hey, Candace, I see your note here. We love you too, girl. All right. It's been 5 great years, and could not be prouder of you, everything that you've accomplished. You are the incarnation of your family, of Etheleen, of our school. And girl, I mean, just thank you so much for just representing every single day, and also for just being happy and being cheerful. I mean, I know it's tough sometimes going through the ups and downs and how hard school can be. And I just appreciate how cheerful you are and your positive attitude. Yeah, so Mr. Hogue, thank you. And to the early college staff, if you can see this chat bar, Mr. Hogue is saying, thank you to the entire early college staff. Thank you. He's so thankful for every single one of you guys, as I am. Our school is not any one of us. It is all of us. And all of us is me, it's the front office, it's our teachers, it's our families, it's our scholars, it's every single one of us. And so it's not about me, it's not about any one of us individually, but we do serve our families, and you guys come first. So thank you, Miss Heath. Thank you, Miss Hines. Taylor Webb, same to you. Miss Trina Webb, thank you. I see your note there. We miss you too so much. So proud of Taylor and everything that she's accomplished. Her goal is to be a special ed teacher. Come back and serve in Edgecombe. Love her so much, and can't wait for her to be reinvesting in Edgecombe. Thank you, Ms. Brake. Appreciate the shout out there. Ms. White says for us to stop. She's about to cry. Okay, so with that in mind, because I'm not going to cry online, even if you think I had a little catch in my throat there, that was an illusion, an optical illusion. Love all you guys. And talk to you soon. Okay. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
If you're still online, feel free to unmute and say hello. I've stopped recording.
Bye, everybody.